we must make sure that every person in this country who needs to seek medical treatment can go to a doctor free of charge, regardless of their income. That is obviously what we must do now in the middle of the crisis, but that is what we must do as a nation in the near future. And here are just a few instances about how absurd and dysfunctional our current healthcare system is. It has been estimated that a full battery of tests for the coronavirus cost over $1,300. So first of all, take a look at that. $1,300 to get the test people need to have to know whether they have the virus or not. In America today, 40% of our people don't have $400 in the bank to pay for an emergency expense. We have half our people living paycheck to paycheck. If their car breaks down, they can't afford to get it fixed. And if somebody tells them it's going to cost $1,300 for the test that you need to determine whether you have the coronavirus, what are they supposed to do? What are they supposed to do? What happens to them? Maybe they end up going to a payday lender where they can pay 50 or 100% interest rates on borrowing the money that they need. Do they borrow money from their families, or do they go without a test, which every doctor in the world will tell them is a test they should have? And while the Trump administration says it may cover copays to cover the cost of testing for those who have insurance, they will not cover the cost of treatment, which could cost tens of thousands of dollars. How cruel is that? How absurd is that? To say to people, well, we're sorry you have the coronavirus. We actually covered the cost of the test, but now you're on your own. And it's going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars to get treated. That is totally absurd. If clearly what we need to do is to make sure that if somebody has the coronavirus, that person gets the treatment they need. In other words, we have a healthcare system today which leaves millions of people uninsured. But even if you have insurance, you may not have the ability to travel to a doctor near you, because now we're talking about a system in which many rural hospitals have closed down and people cannot find a doctor in their communities. The reality today, and this is an issue we must deal with, is that we do not have enough doctors, we don't have enough hospitals, we don't have enough clinics in rural communities and in inner cities. Further, we are in a situation when we desperately need affordable prescription drugs. Yet we have a pharmaceutical industry that continues to make billions in profits by charging outrageous prices for prescription drugs, sometimes 10 times more in this country than in other countries. In my view, the most cost-effective way to reform our dysfunctional and cruel system is to move to a Medicare for all, single-payer healthcare system. And I think in the midst of this crisis, more and more Americans understand the truth of that. It is nearly impossible to believe that anyone can still think it's acceptable to continue with a healthcare system that leaves tens of millions of people uninsured. The cruelty and absurdity of that view is more obvious in the midst of this crisis than it has ever been. And let's be clear, the lack of health care and affordable medicine does not only threaten the health care and well-being of the uninsured, it impacts everyone who comes in contact with them. In fact, what this crisis is beginning to teach us is that we are only as safe as the least insured person in America.